What's up, everybody? You're on 514 Online Mix, and we have a very special guest. EULOGY is in the virtual house. Thank you so much, EULOGY, for being here.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
So you are the contest for the Lose the Weight Remix Challenge. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, run by Holden Roy.
Yes. Shout out to Holden, first of all, for putting on such a great contest. And shout out to you, EULOGY, for putting on a great, entertaining show. I think I rewound that like a few times. You were the winner for a reason. And can you tell me, why do you personally think you won?
I'm I don't want to like boast or anything, but I think I was one of the people who really went in on the subject matter, right? Like not just to like sort of rap over the beat that he provided and kind of touch on the subjects. I said, okay, I'm gonna make the whole fucking song about sorry, am I allowed to cuss? Should I be
Please be yourself.
And so what I thought was, okay, I'm gonna actually go like heavy on the topic, and like every bar I wrote was something to do. I had to either have punchlines about like dietary choices, workout stuff, self-esteem, like something to really do with like a song about where if I was to go back and listen to it now, I wanted it to motivate. And like I don't know about anybody else, but I've been putting on those pandemic lockdown pounds right now in all the wrong spots, and I got to start working out again, and that's soon to get me, back and motivated. But I think that's why I kind of came through at the end of the day, because Holden, when he was reviewing it, he said like it really connected the theme for him, where I was almost like a personal trainer, where I'm like being hard on the listener, and I'm kind of like a drill sergeant almost. And then if you listen to it, it's like, but we're gonna lose weight whether you want to or not. Like I'm not here to be your friend type deal. So I think that kind of was like really what resonated.
It motivated me as well. I like to look at Facebook when I'm doing exercise, or sometimes even YouTube to listen to music. And when I came across your entry and I was actually working out at home, I was like, yeah, EULOGY, you definitely killed that one. Shout out to you for that one. Shout out to you for motivating people through that remix challenge as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Shout out to Holden once again for putting it on. It was amazing. So how long have you been in the music game?
Like taking it super seriously to where I'm really pursuing it and like, putting hours in, I'd say like 3-4 years, but I've really been doing like music for about 10 years. But it just started out at first as just, you're hanging out with the homies. And instead of getting up to some dumb shit, going out and like, just drinking and, getting up to no good around town, we would just like hang out in my boy Danny's basement. We used to call it the chamber. And we would all just lock it in there and, we'd be digging for samples. We would just be making our shitty little beats, working on stuff. And it was just a good way, like, just getting together and like being productive. And so I've been doing that for about like 10 years at least, but really taking it seriously to where I'm like taking control of like my brand and trying to put out like strategic releases and actually develop more as an artist. I'd say about 3.5-4 years.
It shows your dedication. Even though if you said you've been in this, like doing it like seriously for 3 to 4 years, I see your dedication in your lines and in your songs. We're going to get into some of your tracks a little bit later, especially, the ones you recently put out. You hit something. Like when I listened to your songs, I was like, this guy is not only talented, he also has life experiences. You know what I mean? And just the way you rap, it shows that you do put your experiences in your music as well.
Absolutely. I always try to. I feel like that's what connects the best with people. The music I've always liked the most is the shit that just hits me right here. You rewind it, you rewind it, you rewind it. They don't live the same life as you, these people, but somehow these life experiences, we all experience them, right?
So right now, tell everybody. Oh, thank you very much. No, it's basically your talent shows. That's what I see when it comes to your talent. So shout out to you for that. And so you tell everybody where you're from.
Well, I was born in Russia, actually, in a small little town called Lobnya. it's like a couple like an hour, a little bit like an hour drive out of the main city, Moscow. And I moved to Canada when I was 8 or 9 years old. And I used to live in the Rexdale area, near Toronto. And now I'm staying out in Mississauga, Sauga City, baby, stand up.
Ooh, yeah, stand up. That is so cool. Shout out to you for doing an interview with us from Montreal. So that's really cool. And so does your Russian background ever come into your music? Like, does it influence you at all?
Not in super direct ways the way people might think. But I owe a lot of my musical background and just my musical like flavoring. I owe a lot of that to my mom and my dad because of the stuff they listened to. And like they had me when they were pretty young, and they were like still sort of like, young enough to be catching up on a lot of the music that was just coming over to Russia from like the States, from other parts of the world. So I got a lot of exposure to a lot of kinds of music, but funny enough, not hip hop. I was the one that sort of pulled myself towards hip hop. But I wouldn't say any direct like cultural musical notings come through or anything like that, but I am sitting on a couple of nasty samples that I want to use for future projects that are from famous Russian singers and artists and stuff like that. And I have actually sampled like old Soviet era cartoons that I used to watch when I was a little kid, like kind of like the Russian Bugs Bunny. I sampled them on a couple of songs, and used them for like underlying samples and stuff like that. So it's in ways that people wouldn't think about, right? But yeah, it's definitely there for sure. You can't escape it.
That is so exciting. I'm so excited to hear what you got coming out, especially with those samples that you guys have coming through. Oh man, that is exciting. I like something that's different. I don't I appreciate the artists who are original and bring something new to the table.
Like it, right?
Yeah, especially in hip hop.
Of course, that's like I feel like maybe because of the way the market's a little oversaturated nowadays with how many people put stuff out, it seems like it's too many people doing one thing, whereas back in the day, there seemed to be more diversity and variety. But I'm always, despite somebody's skill level or even the message of what they're trying to talk about, I might not even relate or even care about the first two, but if it's something I've never heard before presented in a way, I'm going to sit there and listen. We're all curious creatures, right? You can't stop that. So that always gets people's attention. That's what we sort of try to do with our music. Me and the boys, like, don't go for the things that people would always sample that you think other people would sample. Try something different with it. Keep it contemporary, but go outside the box.
That is so cool. You pretty much said you brought yourself to hip hop. What did you grow up listening to?
Well, so when I was a little kid, it was whatever my parents were listening to, right? My dad's big into like classic rock, so a lot of Led Zeppelin, a little bit of Beatles, but he was huge into bands like Depeche Mode. Those guys are incredible. That's one of my favorite bands, right? Like Pink Floyd. So I grew up listening to a lot of that stuff, but also a lot of like traditional Russian music and like folk. So I had sort of a wide spread. I then got into more harder bands when I moved to Canada. So I would listen to stuff like Metallica, a little bit more American, like hard rock, Black Sabbath. I got into my Linkin Park phase. Didn't quite have an emo phase in high school, but I loved Linkin Park. Rage Against the Machine, big band. And those last two, both bands had heavy hip hop influences to their vocals and a lot of the instrumentation, especially Rage Against the Machine. And that really started to sort of turn me over and slowly work its way into my brain. And I've always been a rhythm guy. I played drums in elementary school. I've always been the kid like mashing on tables, banging out beats and stuff. So I feel like that kind of contributes to me having a pretty good sense of rhythm. So I have the flows that I have. And I think me being Russian also helps with me being able to double time and do certain syllable bending because of the dexterity of having another language. But sorry, yeah, not to get off track. Yeah, I pulled myself sort of into hip hop with those early bands like Linkin Park and Rage Against the Machine. But obviously, you can't escape Eminem. So I was just coming to Canada in '98, and in '99 and 2000, he just takes over the entire game. Right, you can't escape him. Every kid's singing, I'm Slim Shady or something. They're really shady. So I come home, I'm doing the same thing. My dad whoops me upside the head. He's like, boy, you better not start listening to that crap, sagging your pants. You better get some good grades, right? He had that impression of, hip hop is like, it's going to turn you into some it's gonna take you down into a wrong lifestyle because of what it's promoting. And you know what? I don't even blame them because sometimes it does send the wrong image, right? It's the over glorification of drug use and disrespecting women and just loose lifestyle, putting yourself in danger, drug dealing, all sorts of stuff, right? So I would listen to stuff like 50 Cent and Eminem in secret. I would have to do it with like the buddies at school, or like, you know, and yeah. But then as time went on, I had like a huge resurgence towards hip hop in the later years of high school. When I first smoked weed with one of my boys, and he put me on to Nas. Man, Illmatic blew my mind. That really opened up hip hop. I would say in a way that before I was listening to sort of commercial radio stuff like Eminem, 50 Cent, right, whatever you would hear on the radio. But then Illmatic, like, absolutely blew my mind in terms of storytelling, visualization. Like, and then I realized this kid was like my age at the time he recorded the album. Oh my goodness. Like, I sat there in my car before school, being late some mornings because I was smoking a joint, like just completely entranced in the stories. Yeah, and shortly after that, I kind of fell into like a huge frenzy for hip hop. I started like going into everything as far back as like old school KRS, Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, Kool G Rap, all the way to, you know, the greatest of the 90s, Nas, Biggie, Wu-Tang, Snoop. Like, I absorbed it all, Drake. Then the more contemporary stuff like Kanye, Eminem, even Drake. Like, I've just been all over the map. I got like a sickness for it, right? And I went back and learned all the history. I watched every goddamn documentary you can find. I love it. Hip hop to me is like just superhero stuff, man. You can't describe how it makes me feel.
That is, wow. You know what, EULOGY? You can get off track anytime you want. It is so interesting just to be able to listen to you and what you have to say. And it's so crazy that you had to listen to hip hop in secret in a way. So you basically had to fight to basically do your hip hop.
Yeah, I didn't want my dad would be on some, like, you know, he'd think I was gonna go and start doing drugs. I didn't even try weed until like almost like either senior or junior year of high school, right? Like, I wasn't really even getting into no nonsense. I was kind of a good kid for a while, right? So music didn't even do that kind of stuff. I had to sort of hide it from the parents so they wouldn't think I was some like no good hooligan, right?
Yes.
But it's funny nowadays my dad will be sending me links to like battle raps that he saw, or like some Russian rap artist that's like blowing up. He'll be like, "Oh, what do you think of this guy?" Really? So fans kind of come around to his ways. I'll say that much.
Do you feel like you influenced your father to come around?
Absolutely. Because there were times when we were sort of butting heads about it, and he was like, you know, like, "Why are you pursuing this of all things?" And it just seems like such a diluted industry. All sorts of inputs, right? And now he's sort of come around to it, right? I think, yeah, me not giving up on it sort of did. Yeah, it definitely brought him over to it. Because it's funny, he was the guy who put me on to bands like Linkin Park, and half of their vocals are rap, right? Mike Shinoda's always doing it. And I'm like, so how can you, don't be a hypocrite, man. Look between the lines. It's just a different style, right? Yeah, for sure.
You know, that is very interesting. Shout out to you for your passion being so strong that your father was able to see your love for your music, especially for hip hop. That's a story, EULOGY, and that is really, really, really cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. And shout out to your pops for you know, turning around and enjoying your passion with you.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
That's
people
amazing.
Change, man. People change, right?
So it's true. You know what? Unfortunately, a lot of the hip hop songs had a lot of, you know, like basically references to drug use, abuse towards women, and it's a lot of what the mainstream puts out there, you know, and they put usually like the nicer versions of rock songs in the mainstream, you know, like radio shows and stuff like that. I definitely agree with what you're saying, and so shout out to you for. Sorry, please go.
Sorry, it's not to cut you off, but like to the uninitiated person who's not really like at all in tune with some of the deeper layers of the culture, all they see is that front level, right? It's not a pretty picture. Sometimes it's like such. Yeah, right, absolutely. But you know, and that's kind of the thing I tried to tell my parents too, and I was like, no, listen, like this type of hip hop I like, it's almost nothing like this stuff. I'm like, you guys got to listen to some of the stuff you're not even gonna understand because it's so like intricate. It's almost like people speaking a different language, like literally the native tongues.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. That's so you're so cool, man. I just have to just shout you out there. Like I'm getting off track just talking to you because
no worries, man. I got it all night.
Awesome. You're awesome. And you know, this is why I love listening to artists' music. Before I speak to them, I have to make sure I do my homework because I want to feel what like who you are as a person, and your music shows who you are as a person.
Thank you.
It really, really
mission accomplished. Then.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. And
nice.
I'm gonna get into the concerts a little bit more after. Let's talk about your music since we're on that subject right now. Can you talk to us about Sunday Afternoon featuring Providence? That was Providence the Poet, right? Providence the Poet?
Providence. Shout out to Providence the Poet. That's right. From Montreal.
Wow, that song was really, really dope. Shout out to both of you and the producer and the videographer for doing a great piece.
The whole team came through.
I think that one was in black and white. If I'm not mistaken.
Most of it was black and white.
Okay, yes, yes.
So that was sort of the vibe I wanted to give off. So most of the video, especially the start of it, it's all black and white. It just sort of shows you like this dreary, rained out kind of like Sunday afternoon, right? Just like a bleak day. And then we have sort of the two main characters would be me, obviously, from what I'm rapping in the video, and then my homie Danny. Shout out to Danny Knight. That's my boy who I was talking about earlier, who when I linked up when we started doing music. But so he's the guy who comes in and starts playing on the little piano. So he's sort of the other main character. And when he touches the piano and sort of gets frustrated enough to throw his hat off because like no people are passing him by and not listening to his music, that's when some color bleeds into the video. And it sort of starts bringing back life to it. I just wanted to sort of draw that parallel of like, even in the bleakest times, you just got to focus in on some ray of hope, and then just it'll radiate the more you look at it.
Meaningful.
Thank you.
That's one of the first word I put in my notes to that video was meaningful, and
we got that out of it.
Really, you guys really did, and the subliminal messages to like not a lot of local artists do subliminal messaging, in their video, and I really was painted a story, so it was entertaining. It really was.
I'm glad you said that because thank you. That's the goal right there. That's what we were shooting for. I wanted people to be entertained not only by what they're hearing, but also the visual side of it, right? I know where people, a lot of times, man, songs don't even break unless you have a visual component to it because that's what really locks it in for people, right? So I felt like this is a good way for them to not only see me and my guys and who we are who make the music, but also it just takes the song even further, right? Because now you have sort of what I was trying to paint in my head, you now have it before your eyes.
For real. So
how do you like that song?
Thank you. It was really, really good. Once again, shout out to you guys for doing that. And how did you and Providence, the Poet, get together to make a song like that?
So Providence, I met him actually. So back when I was younger, I used to live out in Oakville, and there was a little bar downtown called Less Than Level. Shout outs to Less Than Level, baby. That was like, okay, so you've seen 8 Mile, right? Yes. Everybody's seen 8 Mile. So you know how those guys, they go down to this place called The Shelter? That was like our shelter. Okay, so Less Than Level, it's literally like a little underground bar. You have to like go below ground to get into it. And they used to host open mic nights every Wednesdays. Me and my boy Danny ran it for a while. We started by just going out there first, like as like rookies, sort of getting our vibe on stage in front of like, sometimes 5 people, sometimes 40 people, depending on how live it was that night at the bar. And eventually we were running the nights, and it was like a big, like decently large community of like really dedicated local hip hop artists who might not have even put out music, but they would come out and sort of, contribute to this open mic freestyle event. And eventually Providence started coming out with some homies of his, I think from out in Quebec. And I can't recall if he was simply visiting friends at the time or if he had already moved there and was staying locally, but he started coming out almost every week, and we immediately kicked it off. Like it would just be mutual props. I was digging his style, he was digging ours. And years after that, I was just eventually just sending him beats. Like funny enough, like I produced the entirety of Sunday Afternoon, and that was one of the beats I randomly sent him when I had sort of just started getting into it. But before, I would always be rapping on beats made by my boys. Danny Knight was one of his producers. Homie Clockwork, Danito Cruz, shout out to Danito. These guys would be my sort of like sonic background, and I would just do the rapping. But a few years back, I started making beats myself, and Sunday Afternoon was one of the beats I sent him, and he sent me back like a little freestyle that he did.
Oh, cool.
Over it. And I wasn't too blown away by like the verses. They just weren't the kind of energy I was looking for, what he did. But then there were these parts where he was saying some really ill stuff and in a tone that I enjoyed. So I said to him, I'm like, yo, do you mind if I sample you and I chop you up and I make you say some stuff in a chorus? And he was like, all right, bet, let's do it. So I just went and took the parts I really liked and sort of nudged them into different pockets. And that's how the chorus came about. So those things he's saying, they were close together in his freestyle, but they weren't phrased exactly like that. And then after I had that, I went back and I was like, well, I might as well now do something to this. And I went and wrote the verses. I was like, sweet, I got like my first track for an EP now. Let's get it.
Wow. I'm shouting out the producer, and that producer is you. You are highly talented. You also did some artwork for the Willie Scandals live show.
Yeah, I threw together a little logo for him. Yeah, that's right.
You're an all-around artist. You really are.
Yep.
And like I said earlier on this show many times, that I always like to find gems on this show,
right,
who are all-around artists like that. We don't get that enough, an artist who can do multiple things. And Sunday Afternoon is an amazing track. You produced it. You were featured on it as well. That's amazing, with Provenance. And who directed that music video? Was it you?
Wow. I directed the video, and my boy B-Ran, shout out to B-Ran. He filmed the whole thing, and then he did the bulk of the editing while I sort of backseat edited through him. He would send me drafts. I would go, okay, can you change sort of this stuff, add this scene? But he did all the in program editing, and he filmed the whole thing. Yeah, me and him went out a bunch of times on some rainy days, got it done. But yeah, I directed the thing too, storyboarded everything, the whole concept. That's me.
That's amazing.
The little red piano. Yeah.
I also forgot to add that you also play instruments.
Yeah, I mean, I dabble. I got the old guitar right here. Yeah, I'm nowhere near as good at the guitar or any instruments that I'd like to be, or as I am at like rapping and beat making. But it's getting there. Yeah, it's getting there. I'm trying to implement it more and more with actually all the projects that are coming out this year. It's gonna be a busy year. Busy year.
Definitely looking forward to that. If your songs like already dope, just imagine what you're bringing to the table. Your contests are coming in. This is really entertaining. I love seeing artists bring that fire, and you're bringing that fire. Can you talk to us about your song Day Ones? That one, wow.
Day
One was another one. Yeah.
I'm glad you enjoyed that one. So Day Ones, this one has a little bit of a lengthy story. Not like, we're not gonna take an hour, but so if you got the time for me.
Take your time.
The way it started was, remember I told you one of the earlier beats I started making was Sunday Afternoon, when I started dabbling with like FL Studio and Cubase. I had a bit of a spree where I made a ton of beats, and a lot of them were really dope. And like a dummy, I was saving them only on an external hard drive, like one of those big 1 terabyte hard drives. Like an idiot, I had no backups anywhere else. And what ended up happening was eventually just one wrong fall, and that bad boy isn't booting up anymore. Right? So that's heartbreaking to me. I still have the drive, and I'm eventually going to pay the outlandish fee to get it restored at like a proper place. But like a workshop that does that kind of thing. But for now, all those beats are lost. This breaks my heart. So I'm sitting there on my actual laptop now, going through what little I have left and thinking, crap, like what didn't I save on there only, and what didn't I lose? And I found an old beat that I tried to put together even years before that. And all I did was load it in a sample and just made a few chops.
Okay.
This is from years ago. So I opened this and I'm like, what was younger me trying to do here, right? And I play the sample and I'm like, oh, word? Like, okay. And I'm like triggering all the different samples I had chopped. I'm like, this is kind of nice. And then I put together the beat for day ones right there in like about an hour and a half to almost be like, bro, don't worry. Like all those beats you lost on that hard drive, even if you can't recover that, that was your freshman year. You got your junior, you got your senior ahead of you, you got, you know what I mean? You got even better beats ahead of you, so don't even trip. And I sat down like, okay, you got to prove to yourself, so you stop worrying about this. Make an even doper beat than any of the ones you lost. And I did. I sat down with that sample and I made the beat for day ones.
Good advice.
Sent it to people and they were like, dude, this is killer. Okay. So that validated to me that it wasn't just my own like self-inflated ego being like, yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to write to it. And for some reason, the subject matter that it pulled out of me was almost like rallying me and the crew, rallying me and my guys that have been with me from day one, right? Who've been pushing this music thing with me, just the actual, like, you know, the homies, the brothers, and sort of giving them their just dues while also just like bolstering them, right? Like the opening bars, I'm like, you know, told you motherfuckers before we go blow up. It don't matter, you know, how many shows nobody show up. And it's not like, right? So I'm trying to almost like, if they're hearing this for the first time, be like, come on, boys, we're still not out the game yet, right? Like, I know we've been trying to push this for a while, but let's keep at it. And yeah, I went in it and I had this idea to sort of feature all my guys on the track in small capacities, but without doing like something that warrants a full feature, right? I didn't want to do like a posse cut with all the guys on it because we just put out a song not too long before that called Mad Sounds where I had like 5 of the homies on it, right? I didn't want to sort of repeat myself, but I did want to do shout outs for the guys. So I figured out roles that they could all have in the song. So that's why the chorus is like, my boy Bubs comes in. Shout out to Bubs. He comes in. He's like, this is not a chorus, right? And then my boy Danny comes in. He does his piece. Then I come back in and we sort of juggle the chorus back and forth. And half of the ad-libs on my verses are done by my guys, SY. Shout out to SY. And my boy Skinny Chuckler. I sent the track to them and I'm like, guys, can you do some like ad-libs in the background for me and just mail it back and I'll sort of place them where I want. And then also my boy Clockwork, he does some of the shout outs at the beginning, like the super echoed, like, let's go. Like, that's him.
Okay. So that's him.
Right. So, and those guys are all the guys that are in the video. I have the mean mugging behind me while I'm doing my thing in front of the camera. And then last but not least is my boy Dre. Shout out to Uncle Dre. That's his artist name. He's the guy that does the sort of spoken word piece as like the bridge just past the middle of the song.
Okay.
So I had everybody, right? So everybody was sort of included in ways that like made it one whole track and brought it all together with the beat. We did our thing. We shot the video. B-Ran shot that again. I directed it and that bad boy came together. That's one of my favorite projects that we've put out so far. That song right there sort of encapsulates everything I've tried to do so far.
You know, I really, really enjoyed Sunday Afternoon, but that was my favorite day ones. I also related to that track too. And shout out to y'all for making
Thank you.
Great one. Once again, Eulogy. You're constantly like amazing me, honestly. You're constantly
That's
bringing
awesome. That's
fire
good to
to
hear,
the
because
table.
I'm trying to level it up every single time. Thank you.
You are.
That's good to hear.
And this is why you're also on the top 10. Which contest is that? What is it? Battle for Bars or?
Oh, it was put on by Battle of Bars. Yeah, Battle of Bars, I believe it was called. Top and that was 10. Put on by, funny enough, by a group called Day One Records.
Right.
Yeah, so those guys put that project together. I can't remember how I heard about it, and I jumped on that. Yeah, top 10's not even that bad, man. There was some odd entries on that one.
You know why it wasn't so bad? Because exactly, there was some top entries there, and you said, this is what you said, you didn't go out for blood, okay? And you're still number 6.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't mean to brag, but yeah, I kind of like, yeah, I wasn't like, you know, yeah, not to brag, but I wasn't going, you know, full pedal to the metal on that one. The one where I actually like was like, all right, let's get it, because 6th place is okay, but I'm shooting for top 3 next time, if not 1st place.
Can't wait to see that.
The volume 2, Bridge the Gap, that behind that suit is putting on.
Mm-hmm.
I just released that a few days ago.
Yes.
That's a little bit more of like me putting a lot more pressure on it.
You know, I definitely say that to watch a little bit later. I didn't get to watch it just yet, but I like to cozy up and like go through some things that are entertaining, and that's going to be one of them to look out for. You mentioned that I actually wrote something about that. You said, okay, that quote, might win me enough beats to put together a whole EP, quote. You're coming in with some confidence. I'm excited to click that link and watch it.
That's amazing. Yeah, I was hoping people at least would be like, oh, this guy's cocky as hell. Like, man, he's probably trash. I'm going to play this and then rip on him in the comments. Then they're like, oh, shit. Oh, shit, this guy's dope. Right?
Yeah, I really appreciated the confidence you brought to it because it made me intrigued.
Hip-hop.
Yeah, exactly.
Hip-hop.
Yeah,
it's hip-hop.
It's okay to brag sometimes. Yeah,
and that's the thing, too. I know I can back it up, too, and I know it's going to trigger people to be like, oh, look at this motherfucker, right? Like, I'm going to go in there. And I don't know, you know how Facebook shows you, like, how many people have seen it?
Yes.
And then you compare to how many people have liked and commented it all. I'm like, I see all you salty Sallys over there. You've seen the entry, but you have nothing to say about it. Okay, all right, that's cool. That's cool. But aside from trying to be a cocky dick, where the comment actually came from about having enough of these beats put together to have an EP is because that original contest that I won that Holden put on before Volume 1 was the Lose Weight remix, and I won a beat by Peter West. That was one of the prizes. Well, interview, a ton of merch, a ton of cool stuff.
Yes.
Shout out to Holden. Yeah, he put that together like crazy. That was a pretty sick first contest for the guy. And Peter West, shout out to him. He sent me like a beat pack. I picked like a pretty nasty one. That's going to be a track I'm working on. But I thought to myself, if I win enough of these Bridge the Gap volume, whatever, 3 to he's doing one each month, I can have a little 5-track EP, right? All I need is like 3-4 more wins. And I got a whole Peter West EP produced for free, right? Along with I got 3 more projects dropping this year. So that'd be ammunition and just firepower for days now I could play with.
I definitely agree with that one. It's going to be exciting because you're also going to be bringing that fire. You already won one of them. Just imagine what you're going to do to win another.
That's right, because the last one that was held, I can't quite remember the name, but who was the winner? But she killed it on that one.
Natasha Marie, yes, Natasha Marie. That's right. She absolutely brought the heat. And I remember when she first dropped that entry, one of the first comments you'll see is me on there being like, "Well, might as well not even fucking enter anymore because here we are." I'm like, "You did your thing," and then weeks later, she ends up taking first place. I was like, I told y'all. I knew she was going to win. Yeah, called it for sure.
Right? Yes. So I'm never mad at the people. The judges always do their thing. I feel like they always know what they're doing. Whoever gets salty about these things, and enough people do get salty about these things.
Unfortunately, no matter what.
Like, I get it, man. Yeah, egos get bruised, but she definitely deserved that win. And I think I deserved the win for the Lose Weight remix contest. I heard everybody else's entries. They were top notch. But I think I fully brought what was necessary for that one. Now, for these new contests, it's a little different because it's a little more open topic, right? You just sort of bring whatever heat you're going to bring and make it dope. And everyone has the same beat. There's no pre-written verses to it or anything. So it's really about what the artist is going to bring. That's what I find more interesting, because if somebody beats me for that top spot, I got something to learn. And then I go and study.
Ooh, wow. Shout out to Natasha Marie for that win as well. It's so cool how you called it. And before we go, I just want to mention that Willie Scandals shows you lots of love, and you definitely support him too.
Shout out to Willie. Yes. I was gonna say that's why I threw together the logo for him. I just gave that to him because he was, every time I tuned into the show and he had my thing going, man, he was doing like, even after the song, he did like plugins about like, yo, if you really support like artists, like find this man, like don't talk about it, be about it. Like go, you don't have to like necessarily buy up all the man's merch, but like Christ, like, be a real fan. That's big love. Shout out to Willie Scandals.
Yeah, shout out to Willie Scandals. I'm definitely gonna tune in as soon as this interview is over, and he plays your songs as well, and the viewers seem to respond very well to your music as well.
That's a great platform for me because
Yes.
he'll be putting it out there, right? And he's got such a wider net of fans that I could cast out, and then I get to see in the commentary. I'm like, perfect, right? People are responding to it, and
Yes.
that's what these guys show me a lot of love, and I really do appreciate that. Like I'm not even out of their city, right? Like these guys just go completely. It's for everybody, right? They just
Montreal
really love
definitely
the
messes
culture
with
like
you.
that.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that. I appreciate
Yes.
Montreal because they really just do it for the culture, and I love the culture as much as I do. So real recognize real, baby.
That's really cool. And Willie Scandals has real loyal fans. So when when they really like a track, they want to hear it again. So shout out to y'all for, just spreading the love when it comes to music. And that's what hip hop is all about.
That's
And
it.
I can't wait to speak to you again, EULOGY. I can go on forever with you.
Oh, I can sit here around
I
for
need a
hours.
part two. I need a part two with you, EULOGY, because
Absolutely.
I want to know more and I want to follow you on your journey. You're one of those artists who I'm definitely sure that if you continue, you will make it. And I'm going to be like, that guy on TV, y'all, is one of those artists who I've interviewed, who I knew would make it. With the talent you bring to this table, I don't talk like this a lot. It's really, really inspiring. Don't stop. I really hope you don't stop.
I don't plan on it, but thank you very much. That's touching. That kind of praise is what keeps me going. Honestly, days where I'm like doubting it, I'm like, man, people have always given you like these kind of praises that should be taking you to the next stage, and that's got me motivated for this year. I appreciate that. With these 3 projects we're dropping, it's going to be a busy, hot year for Trackhouse Entertainment, me and all the guys. So I appreciate that.
So so tell us more what you got coming on. What can your fans expect to see?
All right, so I'm working with my boy Skinny Chuckler. So I mentioned him earlier, right? He was on the song Mad Sounds. He's the anchor on the track. He's the last man standing, and he kills it. He also makes crazy beats. So he sent me a couple, and I decided to do a little short 2-track EP. Me and him. He's producing both of them, and it's called Chuckling at You Eulogy. And that's coming out hopefully within like a month or 2. I'm just in the process of him sending me over the stems. I'm going to lock in the mix once I get my final recordings, and then all the art and everything's put together. Like I'm about to start like the promo rollout for that pretty soon. So that's the first one, Chuckling at Your Eulogy. Then after that, I'm working with an artist, mainly a producer out of Brooklyn, New York, who goes by the Prime Synthesizer. Shout out to Prime. And so we linked up through just like a random, like in these hip hop forums, people would be like, oh, like I'm working on projects. Everyone drop your links. Like, let me see what you got. And then I'll kind of message you.
So they actually work.
It worked. Yeah, I put on like Sunday afternoon. Day one's funny enough. And then I message him. I'm like, yo, check those out. He's like, word. Like, we're going to work together for sure.
That's awesome.
And we're putting together maybe like a 6, 7, maybe 8-track EP right now. He's been sending me beats. I've been writing and sending him demos back. And that one, I think we locked in a name. It's going to be called The Lifestyle Vicarious. All produced by him, all the beats. And I'm going to be, I think, aside from maybe a feature or 2, I'm going to be the only voice you hear on it. So it's a really like locked in kind of project. But this guy comes crazy with the production. Like I couldn't help but start writing, and then he was blown away with how fast I sent him back demos. And I'm like, dude, I can't. When the beats are this nice, it just comes out of me, right? So hopefully that one will come out maybe like just before like the peak of summer. So that's gonna be like a midsummer album for sure. And another project that we've sort of been working on since I put out stuff like Sunday Afternoon and Mad Sounds, all the tracks that comprise the Animal Mother EP, we've been working on the follow-up full length, which is called A Space Brothers Playlist. And it's about 10 songs. And the goal with that one was, in contrast to how I did Animal Mother EP, I produced every beat on that one. It's only 3 tracks, but I did every beat for that one. I wrote almost every lyric that wasn't a feature, even like Danny Knight doing the chorus on Mad Sounds. Like I wrote the majority of those lyrics. I tried to really just prove to myself that I could do a project almost single-handedly. But in the opposite lane, I wanted to do a project where it was more about the homies, almost like Day Ones. split into an entire project. So a Space Brothers playlist is like, I'm only producing 2 out of the 10 beats, I think, from what I recall. The rest are all Danny Knight, Clockwork. I got Skinny Chuckler on there. I got some other ones I can't reveal just yet because they don't even know that they're on it yet. So some really cool. It's going to be a lot more diverse sounding and a little bit more like, I don't want to say commercial or contemporary, but a little bit more of like a polished, more appealing to all type of sound. I really want to sort not do like radio songs, but a little bit more like radio songs. You'll see what I mean when that drops. So that realistically will be coming out more towards the end of the year. And one final thing is I'm part of a compilation tape being put together by DJ Crooked Letter and D Neezy. Now, these guys are like completely cross-planetary alliance because one of them's out in the UK and the other guy's out in Mississippi. Okay. And they're putting together, like mix engineer and mastermind and all that put together. And these guys are putting together sort of compilation tape, which is another product of me just sort of answering one of these compilation tape things. Like, oh, I drop you links or whatever. And they reached out to me being like, work, right? So I've submitted my 2-3 songs for that one and just waiting on when that's going to be dropping. So I got a ton of material coming out this year. It's going to be hot.
You know,
yeah, we're flooding it now. Last year was sort of laying the foundation. Right, laying the foundation, getting people to know who we are, doing the little videos. A couple of like Holden interviewed me. Holden did the review for my Animal Mother EP. Yes. This was all to establish the baseline, to get people to know who I am, to sort of latch on to the look, the style. And now we flood the market with like a ton of music, and then hopefully people respond to it even more than they responded to the previous material because I personally think we've really leveled it up. Like, well, this is my response.
You definitely leveled it up. We see you. You're making some moves. You're bringing the fire. You really are. First of all, look how you present yourself at an interview. Like, you are who you say you are. I see your guitar. I see your piano. I see your wicked hats. I see your wicked background. Shout out to you for that, and eulogy.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure to talk to you. I'm in awe.
Pleasure on my part too.
I'm in awe with your artistry. And thank you so much for being here on 514 Online Mix. And I know this ain't going to be the last time because you're bringing this heat and we want to follow your journey. So shout out to you.
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, anytime you guys will have me, shout out to you guys, shout out to the whole platform. I love that you guys supported the original contest that allowed me to win this interview. And yeah, I'd be happy to work on whatever you guys see fit in the future. Thank you for having me.
Well, I know your fans ain't sleeping on you. And those who don't know you yet, don't sleep on Eulogy. He making moves. And that's it. You're on 514 Online Mix. And I'm Christella Nicholas. And we were speaking to Eulogy. See you next time.
Peace.
Music on my mind.